I'm talking about Gnostic writings again today. And I decided what might be helpful is if I gave some vocabulary, some of the words that you'll come across in reading about or reading the Gnostic writings themselves that might be unfamiliar. So I've selected a dozen words that you might be wondering exactly what they mean when you come across them. And the first one is gnosis, the word gnosis itself. And gnosis means basically knowledge. But when you're reading Gnostic writings, it means the special spiritual knowledge about God, the knowledge of where we humans come from and our destiny. The second word you'll see is Nag Hammadi. Nag Hammadi is a place in Egypt where in December of 1945, a cache of Gnostic documents and other writings were found. They were codexes that had been written on papyrus and stored for many centuries. Most of them date from the 400s, 3 or 400s CE, and were actually copies of earlier writings from the 1st and 2nd centuries. So that's where Nag Hammadi is, and the Gnostic writings are often called the Nag Hammadi writings. Then you're going to see the term invisible spirit or invisible virgin spirit. And this term would replace our word for God, whatever word we use, whether it's Father, Yahweh, Jehovah, Adonai, our word for God. Their name for God was often invisible spirit. But you're going to find other names for God too. The deep, the first mystery, the adorable one, a number of names for the Lord of all. And so a lot of them you'll be able to figure out from the context. But very common is this term, the invisible spirit. Well, the next one, number 4, are eons. These are emanations of this God, this invisible spirit. They include thoughts and divine characteristics. And the emanations become a type of spiritual being or a spiritual essence with power. And each eon consists of a male and female partnership. In many of the writings of the Gnostics, there are 12 eons, and when they are paired, male and female, then there are, of course, 24, 12 pairs of 2 each. The next word, number 5, fullness, sometimes entirety or pleroma. This is the complete God, including all of the descriptions of the invisible spirit, all of his emanations, eons, and their powers. This realm of God is called the entirety or the pleroma. Sometimes the Valentinians call it the fullness. The next word, Yaldabaoth, sometimes called the Demiurge, the craftsman god. This is the flawed lower entity, a creation of one of the eons, the one called Sophia or wisdom. And this is the lower god who, in the mind of the Gnostics, creates our world, is the creator of our universe. is also called the first ruler sometimes, very often the first ruler, and the lion-faced. So that is Yaldabaoth. Now you're going to see that spelled the beginning letter as an I, as a Y. The spelling, when it is translated from the Coptic writings or the Greek writings, seems to vary depending on the translator, but it's pronounced Yaldabaoth. Number 7 are the Archons. These are demonic spirits that were created by Yaldabaoth, and other names for them are powers or rulers or principalities. And these archons seek to hinder the spiritual growth of humans. Yaldabaoth and the archons are actual enemies of humanity, even though Gnostics believe that Yaldabaoth created both the archons and humans. Sophia, also called wisdom, was the last of the eons. And in a number of the myths, it is Sophia or wisdom who causes Yaldabaoth to come into existence. He is from her creative power. And Sophia is very important in the Gnostic understanding of our world. Number 9, and this term I've used several times, is Gnostic myth. The Gnostic myth is the story of how our world and humans came to be. It explains to us the pleroma, the entirety or the fullness, and it introduces the reader to Gnosis. Now, as you read the different Gnostic writings, the myths vary. They all have the same purpose, but they're not all exactly the same. It seems that each of the great Gnostic leaders developed a slightly different version of the myth. But that was all right with them because they believed in individual revelation from the invisible spirit to every individual seeking. So we might not all understand the myth in exactly the same way. Number 10 is Barbalo. Barbalo is the name of God's first thought. And the Barbalo is the closest a human can get to knowing the unknowable, invisible spirit. Barbalo is female, and Barbalo is also called forethought. The gender of the various eons is determined by the spelling of the name. So Barbalo ends up being a feminine thought or emanation of God. It is not necessarily gender as we think of it, because, of course, these eons are spiritual creations. They don't have physical bodies. Number 11 is the divine self-originate. That is the name in the Sethian myths, but also called the Anointed One, the Christ, the Son of God. And in most Gnostic thought, it is this divine self-originate who becomes human, takes on the appearance of a human person in the person of Jesus. And number 12 are the Luminaries. The 12 eons are organized into 4 groups of 3 each, and each one is led by a luminary. Each is organized under the guidance of a luminary. Well, those are some of the terms you'll come across. I hope this will be a helpful reference to you, and I hope to see you again soon with another interesting topic from the ancient sources of religious thought.